Do you want to write cleaner, smarter, and more scalable Python code? Let's go ahead and level up with object-oriented programming using a fantasy RPG style character system to bring it to life. Go ahead and grab your IDE. I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code, and let's go ahead and build this together. First off, what is OOP? Well, it stands for Object-Oriented Programming, and this lets us organize code into reusable blueprints called classes that model real-world behavior. Together, we're going to build a character class, then create a specialized Mage class that inherits from it. You'll learn how to use init constructors, inheritance with super, and method overriding, aka polymorphism. Let's start off with the base character class. It takes a common RPG info. We're going to have name, race, role, and some basic stats. So let's define our class by using the class keyword, and then we'll give it a name, and we're going to give it a name with a capital letter. So in my case, I'm doing capital C character. We could then add a function within this class, and we're going to be using the initializer. We could do this by typing out def, then underscore twice, init, and then double underscore again. Afterwards, within the brackets, we can include some parameters. And we're going to be storing these object properties using self for our first keyword. This means every character we create will carry their own unique identity and stats. And some of those stats we can have name, race, role, maybe we can have some attributes like strength, agility, and intelligence. We can then add our colon once we're satisfied with that. And this is basically how we can have the constructor for the character class and initialize a character with name, race, role, and stats in those attributes. We'll then use the self keyword here in order to apply them to the individual characters. So we'll do self dot, and then what we're referencing, in this case, name, and this is going to equal the name. So this is going to handle the character's name. We'll do the self.race equals race, and we're going to repeat this kind of process here until we have all of the different roles and attributes sorted out. I was also thinking it'd be really ironic if I misspelt intelligence, but you can handle these things as you wish. For the name, that's the character's name, the character's race, human or troll, things like that. The class will be if they're like a wizard, mage, rogue, things like that. And you can even have these stats affect the character, right? Maybe my strength is used for physical attacks, my agility for dodge roll, things like that, and intelligence used for different magical abilities. We can also add basic methods like display stats, attack, and dodge to simulate in-game actions. We can also add methods within the classes. These are basically functions, but we call them methods when they're nested in a class. So let's go ahead and define one. We're going to make sure we're back one indent, but still within the class. And we'll call this one display underscore stats. And we're going to be referencing the self. This is because if we have multiple characters in our game, let's say we have a whole party, we have like Gandalf and Legolas, they're going to have their own individualized stats, right? Gandalf's intellect is going to be higher than Legolas's. He's a wizard casting spells. This method is going to display the character's attributes. So let's go ahead and print these different things. We're going to use the F keyword before our string. We'll have our character, and then we're going to use our squiggly braces in order to reference the self.name for that interpolation. Let's also handle different things like their race, and then we can also include their class, and then we can do a little list of their attributes. So self.race, let's do their class. I think we had the class as role, yeah. Squiggly lines, self.role. And even if in your game you have different things like tanks, healers, DPS, that kind of thing, feel free to include that as well. You can get as creative with this sample project as you like. Let's have our strength. We'll just represent it by str. We're going to reference the strength attribute. Agility, I think, is AGI. I'm not a huge Dungeons and Dragon player, but I think from different things in different games, these seem to be what they're typically referred to as. Now our self.intelligence. So now when we call upon this method, it's going to print those individualized statistics about the characters. This will be helpful when we have multiple characters using the same class. Let's also create a method for maybe attacking. We're going to make sure we're still in the class, but not in the previous method. We'll call this one attack. Always good to call your methods and functions things that make the most sense. If this was just gibberish when I'm reading the code or trying to debug it, wouldn't know what the heck's going on. So this is going to be an attack based off the character's strength, and we'll print the character name. So we'll start off with the self.name, and we'll say that they attacks with power of, and then we're going to interpolate with our squiggly brackets, the self.strength. And let's also do one for dodging. And we can also print self.name, so it's always going to start with who the character is, dodges with agility of self.agility. Cool, and that is it for our character class. So we've initialized the character here, and we've also added some methods like displaying the stats, attack, and dodge to simulate in-game actions. Now let's go ahead and create a mage, a specialized class that inherits from character, but also has some custom behaviors. So we're going to make sure we're out of the first class, so remove the indents, and let's create a class, and we're going to call it Mage. And next to the name of the class, we're going to add brackets, and we're going to say that it's inheriting from the character. We'll then go ahead and add our initializer again, so we're going to use the double underscore init, double underscore again. Then we're going to include, some information about the mage. The first is the self. We're going to be providing the name, the race, and the intelligence number. Add our colon afterwards, go to the next line. We're going to be using the super method. So we're going to add our brackets afterwards. This lets us reuse the parent class logic without duplicating the code. So we're going to do dot, double underscore again, init with the double underscores. Feel free to use the autofill here. And we're going to basically be saying, okay, we're going to be grabbing the name, race, then we're establishing that the class is going to be mage. And then, we can also define some of the attributes right away. Like maybe the mage always has really low strength because they're really smart. So we'll go ahead and take the strength and we'll have it equal a number. So I'm going to set this one to be 3. We can have our agility also equal a number of 5. Then for our intelligence, we can actually just have this be inputted by the user, right? We'll have our intelligence equal intelligence. So notice how we hard code the strength and the agility for mages as they rely mostly on intellect for spells. So let's explore polymorphism. So in this case, let's say that mages get a special ability. Let's say it's cast spell. That's not part of the base class. This is polymorphism. So let's create another method still within the class, and we'll call it cast underscore spell. This is going to be self. And this is going to be a mage specific method that represents casting a spell based on intelligence, similar to how we had the attack and dodge roll. We're going to go ahead and print. We'll add our F, and we'll say that the self.name casts a powerful spell with int of, and then we'll do the self.intelligence. So this is polymorphism in action. Child classes adding or overriding behavior to specialize their role. You don't have to apply this just to RPG games. You can think about how if we have certain classes, creating subclasses or morphing them to better suit our needs can be very powerful in programming. Okay, so now that we've kind of set up our characters, let's go ahead and create a function. So we're leaving this class in order to create a new character interactively. So we're going to create a function here, and we'll call this one create character. Makes the most sense. Don't need anything within those parameters. And this is essentially going to prompt the user to input details for creating a new character. And we'll use user input to instantiate either a mage or a generic or custom character. So let's have the name equals the input. We're grabbing this from the user in the console in this case. And we'll prompt the user to enter your character's name. We can have the race also be an input. We can also have them select a role, which would be the input with a message of, choose a class. Let's do warrior. rogue or mage. Next, we're going to add some conditional logic to instantate the correct class based on the role selection. So we'll say if role.lower, just in case you only type in all caps, equals, and we'll do mage. We'll go ahead and say that the intelligence equals the int, because it's going to be a number value of the input of a prompt to the user, which will say enter int stat, or you could say enter intelligence, right? Might make it a little bit more sense. Then we're going to reference our character, but we're not going to be using the capital C, but rather the lowercase c here. And this is going to equal that we're going to reference our mage class with the capital M. We're going to have the name, we're going to have the race, and we're going to have the intelligence that we just grabbed from the user. So this is going to be a mage specific instantation. So this is just for mage. If you want to have a bunch of else if statements to handle the different classes in your code, feel free to do so. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and add an else statement here. And we're going to have the strength, agility, and intelligence be based off the user input so they can create their own custom character. So strength equals the int, so the number of the input, and we'll say, enter str, and we'll repeat that for the agility as well. If you want to copy and paste and then just change the kind of variables here, feel free to do so, although it's not too crazy of an ask, especially if you're using the shorthand form like I am. So add our intelligence, which will also be grabbed from the input, enter int stat. Oh, I guess I've been doing it like this. I'll add some consistency. Consistency in my laziness. Once we have all these stats, we're going to go ahead and then establish the character. And this is where we're going to reference the original character class that we had, right? With the mage, we're referencing that kind of subclass. With the character that the people are creating, it's just going to be the character class. Now, we're going to need to include all of the parameters within the character besides self. And if you really want to, go ahead and just copy and paste these, save a little bit of time. So this is for the generic character instantation. All right, outside of this if-else statement, but still within the function, we're going to have the character.display stats. And this is going to show the newly created character stats. And we're then going to return the character, which is going to return the character object. So depending on the class, we instantate either a mage or a generic character and prompt for the relevant stats. All right, let's go ahead and try creating our characters. So we're first going to create a mage named Gandalf, display its stats, and cast a spell. Then we're going to create a custom character from the input. So this is going to be an example of the mage. We're going to have our mage equal mage class, so we're going to use the capital M, and then we're going to pass along the relevant information. So the first thing we're asking for is the name. If you ever want to double check, go back to your class and you can look at the order that they're in. So we're going to have to do the name, the race, and the intelligence number. So do Gandalf, and you're going to want to separate these values with a comma. We'll then do human, and then we can assign his intelligence, and let's have it equal 20. He's a pretty smart guy. So now we can call upon the methods by using the mage dot, and we're going to call upon the display stats method, which is going to display the mage's attributes, and then we can call upon the other method of casting the spell as well. This is going to demonstrate the mage specific method. Let's also run the character creator for user input. So we'll do the player underscore character. This is going to equal the create underscore character. So this is going to allow our users to create a character interactively. Let's go ahead and run our program, assuming I don't have any spelling mistakes. Perfect. So we can see how we created a mage character here. So we have the character stats, Gandalf, race human, class mage. We have his stats, he inherited these strength and agility. So if you go back to our class of mage, 3 strength, 5 agility, perfect. He casts that powerful spell, it grabs his intelligence number, works perfectly. Now still within our input console, it's asking us for our character's name. Let's go ahead and create an orc warrior. I'm going to call it Garrosh. Let's see, what do I want to be? I want to be an orc, definitely. We could then choose a class. Garrosh is most certainly a warrior. We could hit enter. His strength, you know, he's a pretty strong guy. Let's go ahead and make him 25 strength. He's a bit bulky, so maybe only like, I don't know, let's say 7 agility. I'm thinking about this way too much. And his intelligence, you know, he did some bad things for the Horde in World of Warcraft. Might have to assign him an intelligence of 2. And now we can see that it prints out our entire character sheet, character Garrosh, orc warrior. So today we learned how to build reusable, flexible code using object-oriented programming in Python. You were able to see how inheritance, encapsulation, and polymorphism help model complex systems like RPG characters. You can try extending this with a rogue or warrior class, or add experience points and leveling systems and things like that. And don't forget to subscribe for more intermediate and advanced Python builds. So thank you so much for watching. Dream big and code bigger, and we'll see you in the next one.